What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my all the stream that I'm gonna have for Panzer Corps 2 for Scars. But before I do that, I just want to give this video a sponsored by kind of thing. I know when YouTubers do it, I hate it, but I kind of need your help and support in my project that I am putting a lot of money in that I don't have. So it's like my my one shot, and if this doesn't work, so I I have a development team that I hired, and we've been working nonstop for weeks, and we have the first prototype build for the glorious cause, and as you can see, it's right here, right? Now, I give, in terms for the Patreon, I give the alpha builds and the prototype builds to the top tier, but you can also buy it for $10. So you get access to this prototype build. You could actually play it from beginning to end, from the beginning to victory or surrender, depending on how good you are. This is the first, as you can see, 0.1. So it's early prototype. The GUI is just stand-in parts. I have a 2D artist that made a beautiful GUI tactical interface for this game, and that's gonna come out either sometime this week. I believe I'm going to have another meeting with the programmer and 2D artist tomorrow, and I think it should be incorporated by then, if not by the end of the week. But there's going to be a lot of balancing being done. The historical accuracy on this game is going to be top-notch. So the map is actually made from a sketch from 1776, 1777, by either Washington Spy or somebody that was there familiar with the battle, but it dates back to that time period. I got all the stuff that I needed to on how many rounds, I got data in there for how many rounds the Americans have, where the Hessian outposts were, who commanded the Hessian regiments, all that stuff. And there's so much more going into this game, where you could detach companies so they can move faster, maybe secure a flank. Washington's army is going to have low morale because, well, it's the end of 1776, so they're going to have low morale. Hessian morale is going to be high, so that's going to be a critical factor. How you take out the outposts is another critical factor. So this is a great way to kind of support the game. So this way and then, if you buy for $10, that would be great. If enough people do that, then, I can put more money, I'm putting more money into it, and then talking to Slytherin next week, and then we'll see how that comes out. But I just wanted to give a shout out on this, because we've been working so hard on it. Yeah. So, I just wanted to point that out. Or highlight that. I know I need to activate Windows. I keep trying to. Alright. What's my FPS look like? Look at this. 30 FPS on the bottom right. I'm going to make a video about this separately, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that there's some gaming news that just came out. NVIDIA, so if you have a NVIDIA graphics card, is no longer going to be shipping RAM with their graphics cards. So you know how you get a 5080 with 16 gigabytes? They're changing that up. So the manufacturer, either XFX or whoever manufacturer you use, they're going to have to manufacture the RAM, which is not good news. From the tech stuff that I've been hearing is not good at news at all. So graphics card prices are probably going to go up in cost. Yeah, something not good, right? Dang, I can't believe I left it this bad. Where's my other tank? Oh, there it is. Gotcha, mama. Okay. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Oh, that's -1 morale. My bad. Why is this unit not able to... Oh, that's weird. And I got all these soldiers here. Okay. These are part of my right flank. It's so weird that they're moving on. Oh, I should have took that city. Daggone. Undo that. I got all these units that really can't... Alright, let's click end turn. This should be a short stream. I'm also not like at 100% today. Literally just, yeah, definitely not at 100% today. Good thing they retreated. Oh, that's not gonna be good. And there goes my guys. That's alright. Oh, that's not gonna be good at all. What are they doing? Oh, because they're attacking that. I got artillery support. Nice. Oh, -6. That's horrendous. Oh, gosh. And then this should open up. Seriously. Nice. This guy can fall back. This guy can do elite replace. These guys can be regular. Nice. Patrick, how you doing? I'm playing the Soviets. Well, technically the excuse me, the nationalists, I think, right? Rep- this would be a Republican, yeah. So I'm playing the nationalists. Uh, oh no, I'm fighting against the nationalists. So I'm the Republican. Excuse me. It gets sometimes confusing with all these civil wars going on, you know. I watch a lot of is it war fronts or whatever, but like they have like all these videos on like civil war here, civil war there, conflict, all this stuff that's going on. Plus we got our own craziness that's going on in the in our news. Try to keep up on to stay what do you call it to stay current on events. Nice. No, that's not gonna do anything. Nothing. 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 Okay. Whatever.
Hey, baby, look your stuff out there. You want to hear?
Nice. Current Patrick says, "What craziness is that? I don't follow current events much." LOL. Uh, so I try not to get too political, but there is so the big thing in the news today or the last few days is the U.S. has two major naval task forces with about 15,000 military personnel within striking range of Venezuela, and so we over the last month or two we've been hitting boats that are believed to be used by cartels to transfer drugs to Europe and Africa. And we've been hitting them, bombing them, and the president mentioned that these attacks are going to soon escalate to land attacks. We don't know if that's going to be a land invasion by actual Marines, like a Marine Expeditionary Force, a Marine Expeditionary Unit. Because there is a Marine Task Force there. So MU is what the Marines call it, or MEF. Basically, they're kind of like the first ones to hit the beach, right? They're rapid. They're what I remember my recruiter calling America's 911 force is a MU, right? And is basically you can send in the Marines. The Marines are America's 911 force, and you can send elite troops to any part of the world within like a few hours, moment's notice kind of thing. And we've been striking these believed to be cartel boats. The problem is there's a lot of political arguments and discussions about it, is because the rules of war, the rules of the way things are supposed to be done, is if a boat is believed to be carrying drugs and stuff like that, is naval task force with aerial assets is supposed to board the boat, seize the crew, right? Make sure that the intelligence that they gathered, that this is a smuggling vessel, and then imprison the crew and stuff like that. And generally, that's the way it's been going since like the 1980s, and it has a lot of benefits. One being, not only you're interdicting the trade, but you're also getting valuable intel, right? Possibly, code names, intel for point of contacts. You can question the crew of where was this imported. You can get a lot of intelligence data by going to these vessels, securing them, and then in essence interrogating the crew, and then taking these drugs and destroying them. During this administration, the new administration, they just went to using missiles and aerial assets to destroy them. And they're only going based off intel. Now, whether that creates a bit of a cloudy situation, because if the intel is bad, then you just hit a boat full of fishermen. So that creates a huge thing. And the United Kingdom pulled intelligence gathering with the United States in the Caribbean region. So that was a huge thing that I don't think has been done before, or maybe it's been done once before. I'm not sure, but it's a big thing from what a lot of high-ranking military retired officials have said, that for the United Kingdom to do that was a big thing. The other thing was, you have the latest incident, which I think happened last week, where they did a double tap. And what a double tap is they struck a boat, again with the intelligence believing that it's carrying drugs to. And the thing is, Venezuela is not a direct. Venezuela doesn't. How do I say? Venezuela is not the key avenue to get drugs into the United States. It's actually pretty much all of it comes through Mexico, right? And a lot of American deaths are mainly attributed to fentanyl, which comes from China, imported into Mexico, and then imported in through the Mexico-American border. So a lot of people are questioning why we focusing on Venezuela when the smuggling of drugs from Venezuela primarily goes to Europe and Africa. So they were arguing this, then they were arguing about this double tap, which is they hit this ship, a boat, whatever, and there were 2 survivors after the strike. And the rules of war basically say that you can't do a double tap, in essence. You can't, these 2 people either were blown away by the blast but managed to swim back to sinking parts of the ship. The rules are that you're supposed to send craft out pick up these people, and in essence, you can detain them, and then also extract intelligence from them, which would have been which would have been more beneficial. But they actually sent a missile, blowing it up, and and a lot of admirals, Air Force, these are high-ranking military officials that are kind of like highly regarded in the military community, that have served with really incredible distinction in theaters of war. They're kind of like today's Pattons, Eisenhowers, Bradleys, and stuff like that, have said that. And then also you have officials on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, that said that this was seriously a big no-no. Personally, I think that it would have been more useful to send out a Navy chopper out there, pull these two guys out, get valuable intel from them, than waste, like $100,000, bomb to hit the same boat. You would have wasted less jet fuel, got more valuable intel, maybe like intel of other ships that are in the region. Over the weekend, there has been a lot of criticism on this. It's been like 24/7. It's like the same issue on every program, every American news outlet, pretty much. And all of them, both sides of the aisle, are calling for investigations. And one thing that the Department of War or Department of Defense, whichever way you want to kind of go that way, is that's an issue on itself. The executive branch, just a quick summary of that, the executive branch renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War, but legally they can't do that. It requires an act from Congress, so that's its own can of worms. I don't know, so it's hard to even address that. So I'm just going to call it both. Department of War / Department of Defense, whichever way you want to go with that. You have, I think it was on Sunday that they said the Department of War / Department of Defense said, we stand behind Admiral, and I forgot the guy's name, this Admiral who is a SEAL, and you can tell based upon the portrait that they gave, you could see that he's a SEAL because I saw the trident. And from what I heard, he has a very illustrious history in the U.S. military. They say, we stand behind Admiral's decision to double tap the boat. And everybody, a lot of senior ranking military officials are, and I think other people in the military are very upset about this because you specifically named the admiral who made that order, and by doing that, put him in the spotlight, made him the focus of it. And some military people have said this is using this admiral as a scapegoat, so the Secretary of War, Secretary of Defense is not, the primary. It's alleviating pressure off him. So there's so much going on, and it's just it's frustrating, honestly, that like the country is so, in a way, how do I say? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we're very. I've never seen us this divided in a long time. Like, it feels like in the 2000s, after 9/11, we were all like really together, both sides of the aisle. I should have used this one. Great. Uh, and it bothers me that like you have the country the way we're so divided now, more so than ever, and it's getting worse and worse, and I don't like it, because the United States, we're on the 250th anniversary of the United States, and I always believed in the great American experiment, right? We are the symbol of liberty and justice, and I always kind of fell in line with those shining symbols. But I feel like we're getting more divided now than ever. Like, one party doesn't trust the other party, and we're fighting and bickering against each other. When honestly, there are realistic enemies in the world. Russia, is a nation that we've been in a de facto state of war with since 1921, when we landed U.S. soldiers in Russia. We actually landed U.S. soldiers in Russia to support the whites against the reds, and the Soviet Union, which Putin is a huge admirer of and wants to restore the Soviet Union, never forgave the United States for doing that, plus all the other allied nations. So obviously, Russia in the last 5-10 years, or even longer, has, conducted cyber attacks and all this other stuff. Now, China is also doing stuff. I just saw something that they try to cyber attack the U.S. Treasury servers and stuff like that. So we actually have some real enemies. We need to get together. And, go forward, and realize, how special this country is, right? And how special of a document the Constitution is, and how great of a president George Washington was, and it's something that is being lost. And you could see in 2021, and I know some people are like, there was no insurrection at the Capitol, there was an insurrection at the Capitol, and, both sides go back and forth on that. And I'm not going to say my opinion about it. I'm trying to keep as neutral and keep my opinions to myself. But I will say this one thing. It angered me extremely. One, that Capitol Police officers were harmed. I've seen videos of it, with one police officer being squeezed in a door frame, which I was in shock. He was like, please help, or something like that. That really was wow. So huge props to the Capitol Police for what they do. Second thing is, I'll never forget, after 4 years of civil war and 700, and I think we're at 40,000 losses, the number keeps going up. The amount of troops we lost in the Civil War keeps going up. Right? It was 680,000 in a decade or two ago. Keep finding more graves. We're at 740 now, somewhere around there, something like that. 704, almost 750,000 Americans died in the Civil War, so the Confederate flag would never be flown, raised, anything in Washington, D.C. It would never be in the U.S. Capitol. It'll never be, in the House of Representatives or a Senate floor or whatever. And that changed on that day. Seeing the Confederate flag, the battle flag of the Confederacy, in there. So that angered me quite a bit. The second thing is somebody had a Nazi flag with them, and they had the Nazi flag there. So how many, and 250,000 Americans died in World War II to prevent that from ever happening. So, yeah, that angered me a lot. Patrick says, seems like an interesting situation. Reminds me of Clear and Present Danger. It does, yeah. I was actually thinking about that. The same. That's my son, by the way. It reminds me a lot of Clear and Present Danger, honestly, because in Clear and Present Danger, a president. Alex, can you stop yelling? In Clear and Present Danger, the president's friend got, in the movie, I forgot who played the president, but got killed by a drug cartel member. And so I remember I was just watching the movie fairly recently, too, and I remember there was a part in the movie where they said this smuggling, this stuff has to stop. It never ends with these people. And he says, are you suggesting a course of action, Mr. President? He says, course of action I would suggest is a course of action I can't suggest. And he was right about that, because you need Congress. The whole point of the Constitution is that Congress, and this is what bothers me a lot, is Congress is, the legislative branch is ceding a lot of its powers to the executive branch, right? And a lot of things have I forgot to shoot that guy. So Congress has ceded a lot of authority to the executive branch after 9/11, and a lot of strikes that Bush, Obama, Biden, I think, and Trump have done, whether it be attacks in Syria, doing bombing in Syria, doing bombing, throughout the world on, terrorist cells or cartels or whatever, right, is not, how do I say, is attributed to the powers that the congressional, my gosh, can I speak today? The House and Senate gave to the president after 9/11, basically stop terrorism against the United States. So basically, 20 years plus later, a lot of the attacks that we are doing against, like ISIS, cartel members, Iran, I think even Iran, we attribute, we were granted to do these things because we were given authority in 2001 or 2002 to do these. And there was no end date on that bill, right? So every president has said, I did strikes in Syria because in 2002 or 2001, when you passed this act, that's what gives me authority. Al-Qaeda's it pretty much doesn't exist. I mean, there are probably a few operatives here and there, but Al-Qaeda as an effective force is done. It's just done. It's so I think Congress needs to regain that, pass an act to regain any type of military action to be used by the United States and return it back to Congress. Now, there are certain situations, certain laws that go into that are bent a lot too. So we know since the beginning of the nuclear age, right, that the president has to respond swiftly, right? That you can't get the House and Senate all together because maybe one foreign country is going to launch something against us, and you can't get every House member and every Senate member from their states to fly in and write draft legislation and vote on it before the president acts. So they did there was, and I forgot the name of the law, but they basically set it up so that I think it's a committee or it's the top ranking members of both parties. And from what I remember from this law, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if something's happening, the president has to go to them and be like, hey, this is what's happening. I need your thumbs up to do this. And that was kind of like the de facto thing. Like, we can't call everybody, but we can contact these people who represent the majority faction of either party, and they give us a thumbs up. We'll do what we need to do. That has also changed to the fact that we now do strikes and then ask for permission. We don't do the permission first. We do the strike and then say, oh, by the way, we did a strike on this because of these factors. So, I don't know how people feel about these kind of things. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe that the Constitution is one of the greatest documents ever, developed. And I don't want us to stray too far from it, right? I understand times change, and the founders knew that we needed to kind of alter it over time. I totally understand that, which is why we have amendments and such. So that to me is really important. But you want to stay inside. You want to stay within the lane, kind of thing. And and some people believe that we need a new constitutional convention, right, to readdress the powers of the presidency. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. There are good things and there could be less than good things. I don't know. I'm not, there are people much smarter than me that would be more, qualified to make those decisions. Jeez, man. Are these anti-tank? Yeah, they are. That's why. They even anti-tank it. Whatever. But perhaps we need a new constitutional convention, honestly, to the world has changed since 1776. 1789. Why is it, I have a T-26, why against infantry is it so bad? I don't understand that. But other people said we don't need a constitutional convention. We could just do an amendment, which requires a certain majority in, I think, the House and the Senate. I don't know what would be easier. I do know that getting I think it requires at least 35 states to get together. I don't know how that's going to work. There was never a framework drafted on to do something like that. Framers gave us not the outline of a building. They gave us the building, but they said, like if you need to add additions, you can add an addition here and you can add an addition here, but the way you add the addition to the house is you have to kind of figure it out. So, jeez, all these guys are in bad shape, man. Nice. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think we need a new constitutional convention to? And a constitutional convention would require, what do you call it, a massive. I mean, it could really rewrite the entire Constitution. So I don't know how I feel about that. If it's just, I feel more comfortable with amendments because I feel like Article 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5. I think there's 4 or 5 articles. I keep forgetting. First is the legislative, second is executive, third is judicial, fourth is on the states. So I think 4. Correct me if I'm wrong. My constitutional class was like 8 years ago, so it's been a while. But I don't want major revisions to that Constitution. An amendment where you have like. We are going to give the president more power in regards to imminent threats, things like that, probably be more comfortable with. But there's a lot of stuff going on, and what's kind of crazy is that you have I'm not gonna say a lot of people, but you do have people out there that what do you call it, that believe nice. I think I won. Okay. Is that the whole game? But you do have a lot of people. Not a lot of people. You do have some factions that believe, that I've seen it like even on like CNN and things like that, or DW News is from Germany, where they did documentaries or segments, and that there are people that believe we're going to have a second civil war. And so those people, I always tell them, I'm like, the first civil war, right, took out 740,000 American casualties. That's Confederate and Union. That's not even including the civilian losses. That's not including the horrendous damage it did to the whole nation, right? And it took, it wasn't until, 1941, I think, was it? Was it Mississippi or Alabama, one of those states, I think they never did the national anthem or something like that. It was something that, or do the oath of allegiance. It's something that one southern state didn't do until World War II. Like, that fractious relationship went on for like nearly 80 years, almost a century. And you can see presidents from like 1860s to like the even like to like the 1910s, 1920s, still trying to. That's why you have like memorials to both Confederate and Union, because the presidents and Congress just wanted to kind of like heal those wounds from the Civil War, and it took almost a century. So when people are just when I see people on TV that they go into these states and they talk to these people and they're like, what do you think will resolve the nation's thing? It's like Civil War, like that these people are our enemy, right? And it reminds me of a quote that Shelby Foote once said. And they asked him what caused the Civil War. And he says it was a failure to compromise. And I believe some of his exact words is like, Americans like to think of themselves as uncompromising, but in fact, that is one of our greatest strengths. You can see it in the Declaration of Independence. You can see it in the Constitution of 1789. When you have two sides that are just pushing away and considering each other enemies more and more, to the point where more language is used, like enemy, like evil, that compromise becomes less and less and less, which is why you have the U.S. failing to pass budgets, so many more government shutdowns. Like, both sides need to compromise, right? And the fact is like one or both sides don't want to. They're standing to their principles. Problem is, if you don't compromise, what Shelby Foote said when they asked him what caused the Civil War. So, Patrick says, Gina, I'd be interested to know your top 5 presidents. Top 5. I would definitely say George Washington, number 1, because he said, there's an old quote, and I forgot who said it. Power should not be pursued. It should be thrust upon those who do not wish it. And George Washington was one of them. When the American Revolution ended, he went to his farm. It shocked the world. Every king in the world was like, he just went home? Because it was difficult for them to understand that somebody who won the American Revolution, who could have been king of the United States, there was a movement to make him king or executive of this new nation, to just go home. I don't want the power. And that he had to be convinced, I even think by his wife, to even attend the Constitutional Convention as president. And literally strong-armed into becoming president. And he was like, all right, fine. I'm going to do it for this amount of time, and that's it. And you can see how great of a president he was, right? He understood the fragility of the country. He understood that certain things needed to be set. He gave us the first unofficial rules, like 2-term presidents, which lasted all the way to, I think, FDR, right? And then eventually became an amendment where you can't do more than 2 terms. And I think there's many other things that George Washington set up. A small standing army, relying more on a militia, state militia, which in essence is the National Guard / State Defense Force. If you guys don't know what State Defense Force is, just type in statedefenseforce.com. It'll explain it. It's similar to the National Guard, but it's a National Guard that cannot be federalized. So second one, these are going to be hard. Second one, I would have to say, and let me actually just probably flip over to this. It'll probably be easier. Presidents of the United States. I think the second one would be Abraham Lincoln, just right off the bat, mainly because he saved the nation. If it wasn't for Abraham Lincoln, I don't think the country would exist, and the world wouldn't exist as we see it today. So definitely number 2. Buchanan ranks as one of the worst, I think. As much as I didn't like FDR so much, I think he would have to be in my top 5. I don't know which one, but he would have to be in my top 5. Mainly because of the things that he did to basically have the Allies win World War II, the Lend-Lease Act, and things like that. I don't think any president from the recent John F. Kennedy maybe as number 5, and the reason being is I don't think many presidents could have got us out of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So that would have been the end of the world. So he would probably make my top 5. I like going back to the founders. I know Andrew Jackson made a lot of decisions as president that still resonate today. However, I do not like certain things like he did, where like he didn't overturn, but the Native American tribe that was in Georgia went to the Supreme Court because they were being forced off their lands. They took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court voted in favor of them. And Andrew Jackson still sent the U.S. Army and forced it. I think it was called the Trail of Tears. Still forced that Native American tribe west. And I think the word was, you got the paper, but I got the bayonet, or something like that, or I got the troops. So definitely he is not anywhere near there. I mean, a lot of these are great, but for not as presidents. Now, John Adams, responsible for the U.S. Navy, you could say he's very influential in that aspect. Granted some good things, even though there was a lot of scandals. TR. He did certain things. I don't know how. Woodrow Wilson got us into World War I, but he couldn't get. He didn't have enough political capital to get the United States into the. Jeez, my son is very loud. I forgot. League of Nations, which in essence led to World War II. Honestly, I would have to say Dwight D. Eisenhower would have to be in my top 5. For the reason being, and maybe it's just personal, he led the United States through a very calm period, right? There was nothing. Obviously, you had the Cold War crisis, and you obviously had the Korean War and such. But he was responsible for a lot of infrastructure development in the United States, a lot of it. The National Highway System, is responsible for that for him. So like if it wasn't for Eisenhower, you couldn't take I-95 from Virginia to New York. You would have to use side roads. So definitely that. I'm still learning more about Reagan and his effects to this day. Reason being is because there's certain things that he did that led to either accelerated or led to the fall of the USSR, which was obviously our greatest adversary. And then you have George W. Bush, not H.W. Bush, just George W. Bush. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, and I wouldn't say he's top 5, but probably in the top 10, at least top 15. The reason being is he would definitely be above George W. Bush because he could have gone so many different ways in terms of Reconstruction. But George W. Bush, I was in the Guard at the time, and the amount of money George W. Bush put into the military, the CIA, the FBI, I don't think it's going to be declassified for another 50 to 100 years. There's a lot of things that we uncovered with our forces in Afghanistan and Iraq, I believe in Iraq too, that were attempts or plans that were going to happen here, but because of the amount of military forces he sent, the amount of increase in funding and national security budget, we didn't have those things happen. And, I can't talk about them, but they were bone-chilling, very bone-chilling. So as a personal thing, I have a special place for George W. Bush, and I know he's controversial. People will go back and forth, but he definitely, from when I served, did a lot. And I was privy to some information. I was like, wow, I did not know that. Wow, I did not know that. Stationing Army National Guard soldiers around nuclear power plants was a great thing, like securing our infrastructure, There was, in 50 to 100 years, when a lot of things become more declassified, I think George W. Bush is going to be seen more in a positive light because of certain things, and some people will say, well, we went to Iraq, we didn't find weapons of mass destruction. I'm like, well, the certain weapons of mass destruction that we were looking for, we played our hand. That's the problem, is if you follow the 3rd Infantry Division and other Army units that were sent to those locations where they were believed these munitions to be, they got there and the stuff was all destroyed. So we couldn't confirm or deny that it existed. However, we do know that I think it was elements of the 3rd Infantry Division, correct me if I'm wrong. I got this from one of my NCOs. I'm not going to say which branch or whatever. One of my NCOs from a different branch than I was serving in. And she dealt with like Ebola. Like literally she held Ebola in her hands, which I'm like, big props to you, because if there was any rip on that glove, the Ebola, I did CBRN, so I saw Ebola, the aftermath of Ebola for the victims, and I think probably one of the worst. Anyway, getting off topic, but um, yeah, I think a lot of things will come. But in essence, the stuff that I heard was that when they were advancing, some members of the Republican Guard unit, which is I think Saddam Hussein's elite unit, used mustard gas or some type of chemical munition. So they did, in essence, fire a type of weapon of mass destruction against a U.S. military unit during the invasion. And we do know that he used one of the most VX, used a version of VX against the Kurds years before in Iraq. So, and VX is definitely a WMD. So, like, the things that people say, like, oh, we never found WMD, is like, well, he used WMDs, you know, in against the Kurds, you know, like, it's not like, so, and, you know, a lot of people will say, we got stuck with a forever war in Iraq because of that and such, because of going in and stuff like that. If you look at the original battle plans, and I listened to a lot of interviews, a lot of documentaries with people that were in, like, the Defense Department, you know, at the time, you know, Colin Powell to, you know, Condoleezza Rice, you know, like, all the, like, if you really research that war, the intent was to, the original plans were for us to invade Iraq, topple the government, get rid of the WMDs, destroy Al-Qaeda that was there, that was residing there, and get out. That's why, like, there was an infamous picture, famous or whatever you want to call it, where it says mission accomplished. Because the mission was to do that and leave, right? But then there were calls like, well, we can't leave them now because, you know, there's no government. We can't just topple it and leave. You know, that's not proper of us. And there was no plans for us to to stay there. You know, like, so when you spend months planning the military actions and doing that type of operation, and then all of a sudden, like, the victory conditions change, you know, it becomes like, it becomes like, oh man, that was a tank too. Yeah, so when victory conditions change, it becomes like, you know, alright, so I didn't win this. Yeah. I guess I gotta take that. Oh man, 8-1, jeez. Fire in the hole. Jeez, nothing. Jeez, look at these. But yeah, I think the whole -5, good. Okay, let's do that. Nice. This guy's at 2. Oh, okay. Thank you, Patrick. Vicksburg, Mississippi didn't celebrate July 4th until World War II because okay. Yeah, that's it. I knew it was something important. Something important. don't want to put a tank there. Charge! But yeah, I think history is gonna be more forgiving of George W. Bush, and then realize a lot of stuff that he did, because a lot of stuff is probably still classified to this day. And I know there's like a lot of things about the War Powers Act and just a lot of things about like the power of the executive was greatly increased, blah blah blah. And yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was definitely heavily increased during George W. Bush's term, you know. But at that time, like the closest thing that we had to fighting those type of conflicts were like maybe the Barbary Coast, you know, like the Barbary Coast wars, or like, you know, dealing with domestic terrorism and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of things to consider. He's gonna get hit bad, I know it. Dang it. Get a little closer there. Dang it. Oh my gosh. What was that, a tank? I keep forgetting about that guy. Yeah. Oh gosh, another of these bloody units. I hate these units. Fire in the hole! Come on, seriously? Alright, let's do this. Nice, okay. Nice, good, okay. Why does it have that? I don't understand. Alright, I'm going to use some aerial assets, soften them up a little bit more. Alright, let's try now. -1, nice! I think we're done. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There we go. Hello! We just won. Nice! How's the battlefield look? Oh, I got one star, one star. Change difficulty, review battlefields. Victory, heroes, points. The 33rd regular, nice. And then what is this one now? Oh, it's still on the Spanish Civil War? I thought the next one will like focus on I don't know, beginning of Barbarossa or something, because it's 9, so yeah, I guess this full time. But this is where I'm going to end the briefing and save the game, because I had a long day, and yeah. But yeah, if you guys watch the end, I appreciate it. Thank you. But also, if you can, help support the game that I always want to make this game. You know, like, and I have tons of like, I have a number of posts, and like, we got some, like, this is the initial concept art. Actually, this is what's in the prototype. But, I have a 2D artist working on what we're actually going to be using. And this is the last GUI that I sent her. She sent me back something amazing. So that I can't wait for. And then I did a programming update here. But yeah, if you guys can, I would really, really appreciate it. It would not only allow me to finish the game, but also not only finish the game, but how you call it, make the full game, which is the full strategic and tactical portion of the game. And then I need funding for that, and yeah, and that funding is expensive. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoy this. Catch you in the next one. See you then. Whoop.